This episode of Small Business Leaders Podcast is brought to you by Adams Lane Photography.
Welcome to the Small Business Leaders Podcast, coming to you from Legacy Podcast Studio in historic downtown Kernersville, North Carolina. My name's Lamar Powell.
And I am Audra Adams. And today our guest is Kyle of Kyle's Coffee. And we are going to get into a lot of small business matters today. So let's get started. Yeah. Welcome, Kyle Burge, to our podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, guys.
We are excited for you to be here. And you are really a staple, maybe you're a legend a little bit in Kernersville, because everywhere I go, I think today is the first day I've met you in person.
Yeah.
But I've heard your name and seen your stuff for the last year everywhere. So it's like the man, the myth, the legend. Kyle.
Here in person, yeah.
Yes. So, all right. Tell me a little bit about what you do, what your business is. Tell our listeners.
Yeah,
I know what you do.
Yeah, right. So my name's Kyle. I own a Kyle's Coffee downtown. To date a little bit, was formerly the Traveling Bean when I opened up. So been open since 2017. I've been doing coffee since 2009. So a long time. But I do everything. I roast in house. Super fresh, that kind of thing. It's circulated around community, family. It's a big thing as far as the shop's concerned. So,
I mean, it's not just this little thing you're doing. You were voted number one in Forsyth County 2 years in a row.
Yeah. We did Forsyth County. We were we had like a little poll by WXI too. We were voted first place for that. We were first place in Forsyth County. I think we were second place for 1 year. So, yeah, we do pretty good. So.
That is amazing.
And is that for a coffee shop?
Yeah. So it's for like coffee shops in Forsyth County, kind of in the surrounding area. So we compete with everyone else kind of near us, Kernersville, Winston, that kind of thing.
So coffee's a big deal.
Yeah.
We've talked about that in the past.
Yes.
Oh, indeed.
Yeah. On one of our podcasts, I talked about I'd given up coffee for a couple of weeks just for a test.
It was awful.
It was awful, but I gave up giving up coffee. And then, so I'm repeating something I just said recently. It is a major deal. I didn't realize I did some statistics on how many people drink coffee every day, even around the world and even in America. It's just huge. And I'm one of those people because I drink more, and that's just like 1 cup a day. It was like 69% or something. I mean, it was really high number.
Yeah.
But I drink like 5, 6, 8 cups a day, and I can drink coffee all day long. I love it. It's a big deal. So I'm glad you're in business because I love it.
It's to the point that sometimes, where him and his wife live, is out towards Walnut Cove, and then our home is near Walkertown-ish, and so when he's over this way, they all have all their coffee stuff, like the espresso machines and the Keurig and all the stuff. And so you'll just walk down and you're like, "Hey, Lamar," he's like, "I was in the area. I needed some coffee."
Yeah. So.
It's like, okay, dude.
Yeah.
So tell us how you got started. So you mentioned 2009. What happened in 2009?
So 2009, I bought a small roaster. So I can go back even further. Actually, in 2007, I used to. Back where, if you guys aren't from the area, I was born and raised in Kernersville. So way back when, there used to be a little trailer where the Verizon building is, or Planet Fitness is. You're familiar with where they're in that parking lot? Yeah. So there used to be a Burger King. Well, behind Burger King sat a little shack. And so that was like a drive-through shack. So that was my first experience in coffee as far as working in the industry, getting into it, and worked for them for a couple of years, and then left to start roasting in 2009. And so that's kind of where it really all started. So I picked up like a small tabletop roaster, kind of about the size, a little smaller on the table here. And it served me well for a few years. Then I opened up my store in Greensboro in 2011.
Okay, so I have questions because I don't know all that much about roasting. I mean, how do you go from working at, and being somebody who is making the coffee to having the assurance that that you could roast it and make it like.
So it's a lot of trial and error, self-taught. I had a friend who did some kind of home roasting stuff, and so I kind of piggybacked off him and played off of that. I started with like a popcorn popper or something real small, just to kind of play with things. And then I graduated with that first roaster, and then graduated from that to the one I currently have, as I got kind of bigger with it. But it's a lot of trial and error. You kind of learn the dynamics of what to do, what the beans are going to do in the roaster. Sort of, you learn, which ones do what and how to do it kind of as you go along with it. So, you drop a batch in, first few batches, a lot of smoke, didn't come out quite right. You learn the hard way, but years of just kind of experimenting with it, I really kind of honed in my craft the way I like it and the way I roast, and served me pretty well.
So the beans that you get too has to be a big deal for you.
Correct, yeah.
Because your roasting is one thing.
Yes, but the supplier is the other side of that too.
Yeah, it has to be a major thing for you.
Huge, yeah. Yeah, there's different importers, and so I switch between like Cafe Imports and Royal Coffee. They're two of the more prominent ones that I'm aware of, and so with them, I buy them from those guys. They go over, they buy the coffee and ship it over, and they store it in a warehouse, and I get it from them. So by the time I get it, it's been harvested and processed and everything, and then shows up, so then I can sit there and roast it. Personally, for the shop, I don't do anything unless it's fair trade or organic. And it's if it's not that, it's going to be like a real specific micro lot. So I could tell you just about what farmer handled that coffee. So there's going to be a story behind it. With who's farming it and the family and everything. And that's important to me. To know that our impact on this end is going across overseas. And making a big impact. Yeah. So, because there's many, many, many people involved in that chain of coffee, and before you ever get it, you know what I mean? So it's pretty cool to see that.
I'm sure that's a big, huge animal. That whole thing.
Yeah.
I mean, you're really a purist when it comes to coffee. I mean, you're so very knowledgeable about it, but I mean, really, you mean what you say. You love the coffee. You love the process of it. You care about what is on the other end of the people that you're getting it from. I've never thought about coffee.
The other side of that,
no.
Exactly, yeah.
No.
And unless you're, people that drink it every day don't necessarily think of it. They just think, hey, it's my cup of coffee, and which it's great. And don't get me wrong, like the other reason I do what I do is because I want people to come to my shop, and I want you to leave with a smile on your face. If you can leave happier than you came in my shop, cool, done. Like that's my job. Yeah. It's not a great business model, but I'm happy. Like that's cool. That's good.
So, is there a particular region that at a certain time of year that you would get? Is that
so you're getting there. So it's seasonal, just like crops. So each throughout the months there's harvest periods and there's export periods, and so the way that works is depending on what month we're in is what's going to come out, what the crop's going to yield, assuming the crop is good at the farm. And everything works out like it should. And so then they'd ship out each month, and then I get my hands on whatever the current yield or current crop would be.
So are your beans primarily South America? Because I know they come from all over the world.
They do, yeah. So I keep like staples in. So I keep like South American in, I keep Indonesian in, I keep some Africans, some Ethiopians in, and so I use certain things for an espresso blend. So like I keep what I call like staples in that I have regulars that buy it, and also it goes in my espresso, so that it's so I know that I have it, and it's always gonna be the same. So I don't deviate and don't change.
Yeah.
What if the crop failed?
Usually it doesn't. I could say I've never in my years of doing this, I've never had a crop, let's say, fail. Okay. I've had a crop be not produce what it should, not the yield. And quality wise, what we call scoring or cupping is kind of like I could equate that to like a wine tasting or like a beer tasting in a sense. But what we do is we have a score for all specialty coffee, and it should be a certain number, usually like 90 and above. And if it scores high, then that's something what we call specialty grade, and so that's what we would roast and use in the shop. But with that, with that level of crops and that level of score, that's what you're gonna use that to roast with. So I've never had a bad crop. Let's say I've had some things that have been what I would call dull, or let's say a little older. As far as quality wise, not great, but never anything bad. Nothing ever, and it doesn't spoil. Let's say,
Right.
So Kyle, you talked about cupping, and
yes,
I think I've seen some of that. I'm not for me. I love coffee, but I wish I knew more about these details, and I'm learning.
I do not know what cupping is.
Yeah, that's what I want to ask about. So is that Is that something you do, or you have somebody else?
No,
do
so
that? Tasting.
yeah, it's what we call tasting is the best way to say it. So like I said, I could describe it as close to like what would be like a wine tasting. You kind of go through and you sample the coffee. So what I do is I cup it myself after anyone who roasts it should cup it after they roast it. So I roast roughly weekly, maybe twice a week, depending on how much I need. And so after that, I go through and I sample like a few ounces there from the batch, and I'll go through and I'll taste it. And so it involves like literally hot water, a spoon, and a bowl. Like it is the most basic, nothing, no impurities, and that's the idea behind it. So you're tasting it to make sure the roast is what it should be. So during the roasting process, a lot of chemical changes happen, a lot of things happen, and in that process, when you're roasting, you kind of pick out just about what that cup's going to taste like. For me, I do a lot of things by like smell and senses because I've got some blindness and I'm blind in one eye, so my senses as far as smell are pretty prominent, and so I can pick up just about what you're going to taste in that cup, kind of about through that batch. I could tell you almost what it's going to be.
Yeah.
So what I do is
that's amazing to me.
Yeah.
You don't think. I mean, I'll just get a cup of coffee and I love it, love the smell of it, and love tasting it, and it helps me get through the day. But there's so much more to it.
Oh, indeed. Yeah, it's very complex.
And that's why, and your ability to do that probably been very helpful in you being recognized locally for what you do as well. So that's great.
Yeah, I don't do it with coffee, but I tend to cook that way.
Yes, you do. Yeah,
I cook
unique.
and I smell it.
Yeah, you can almost tell you, about what that dish is going to be like. Yeah. What it needs or what it doesn't need.
Yeah, because it really, you can feel the flavor. I can sense the flavor profile all the way down. And that came out of necessity. I mean, I didn't just didn't want to do that. There was just, I had to be on special diets and I couldn't actually eat the food, but I still had to cook the food. So I had to learn how to smell it that way. So listen, I've never met anybody else that.
Yeah, that's always interesting when they're cooking and they talk about all these different profiles and adding things to it. I'm just from South Louisiana. Man, it just got to taste good.
You
for
just
me.
want roadkill.
Yeah, just no. It just needs to taste good. So
okay, so I want to get into what was your background like as far as, did you go to school for a certain type of thing? You mentioned
So my background deviates from coffee, let's say. So my background is in recording engineering, like I mentioned earlier, and so I went to school, go for tech for that.
Okay.
And I kind of had a fork in the road because I've always had a passion for coffee. I've been wanting a coffee shop since I was about 16. It's been like a dream of mine to always do. But I was always good at music and at recording, just because my eyesight, I've always been somewhat musically inclined and stuff. And I used to play by ear, play piano by ear and such. And so I deviated from music into coffee. I figured it was, more profitable and more, fun, and I could kind of blend the two in a sense, in a way. So, the ideas of creativity is there and it's kind of, it's enjoyable. So I deviated and that's when I went to coffee back in like 2009. So.
But the fact is, you probably could still engineer.
Oh, indeed.
Stuff.
Yeah.
I
do a little bit. So
we come from a very musical family, I grew up in the recording studios.
Oh, cool.
And sitting behind the engineers and just watching them in the old days when they had to actually move all the faders.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And then there was the tape was actually, and you only got so many, and they're like, the tape is about to run out. You better stop. And now it's just, you could put a microphone in a closet and run it from your Mac and,
EQ the heck out of you and get what you need.
Absolutely. And
amazing how far things have come.
It is, for real. Okay, so now, do you have a family?
Yeah, I got a wife and 2 kids.
How old?
The older one's 10 and the younger, actually, he's about to be 11 this month, and then the younger one is 4.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so.
That is super fun.
Busy.
So now, you settled in Kernersville. You had mentioned that you were more in the Greensboro area.
I was, yeah. So I grew up here and left, and I went to Greensboro to start that store. So it was off of New Garden Road, Horsepen Creek, where Harris Cheater is, or still is. So I started that store, ran it from 2011 to 2016, and then lease was up in 2016, so I ended up having to close. And came back here at that time. The wife and I, we were figuring out kind of where we're going to go, what are we going to do, and my family's in Kernersville, her family's in Kernersville, so kind of made sense, to come back this way, So, we're both, she's not from here, but she kind of grew up here in her later years, so it just made sense. So
when did you open the actual brick and mortar?
For current where we were Kyle's Coffee. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that one was 2017. Yeah.
Okay.
October of 2017. Yeah.
And how did you know that you would? So we always talk about business owners and entrepreneurs. You have to have a certain level of, like, you're all in. You have the courage about it. It's do or die kind of deal. And what made you at that point sure that this thing could really work?
I mean, it's my second rodeo in a sense, you know. So I've been through the first, you know, the first year. The first one was hard. This one was kind of, you know, Kernersville didn't have a downtown coffee shop, you know, and I had everything in storage, and I was like, well, hey, you know, Kernersville does not have like that, you know, what I was in Greensboro, you know, that community spot, you know, place, that beacon of like, hey, come downtown and hang out, you know. So that was kind of the intention, was I wanted to like bring people downtown and be that spot, you know, where you could just come congregate, hang out, have a cup of coffee, and enjoy the day, you know, or start your day off right.
But it's not, I mean, it's caught on, obviously. I mean, it's a big deal.
Yeah, it's
here
in a cool little shop,
Yeah.
too, because I was in it a couple of days ago, and I want to give a shout out to Garrett because he did an amazing job. I asked for a mocha, and I came looking for you. But I did want to go in, and it just had a great feel to it. I could see where it'd be a nice place for people to hang out, and Garrett did me well because the mocha was incredible.
Hit the spot there,
Yes, it was
nice,
really, really good. And I like where you're at too, because even the alleyway with the other businesses there, I actually took several pictures of those businesses because it's just a neat spot.
Isn't there seating and things out there?
Yeah, we've got like tables out in the alleyway, so they're all shared between like us and all the other businesses. So you just kind of come congregate and hang out. You know?
And that's what I ended up doing. I sat outside at one of the tables, and it was neat.
Kernersville, if for those who are listening or those who are watching but never have been to Main Street, it's a very walkable street, Main Street. I mean,
for sure. Yeah.
A lot of pedestrians that we just like to meander because of the shops and the different things that are populating down here now. So it's really, I think that plays right into the hangout spot at your business.
And I love it. I really do. Being new to the area, that especially the historic part, downtown part, and there's people always walking and shopping, and this had a great feel.
Yeah.
And so for us to start you guys already had your Adams Lane Photography studio here, and it was an amazing spot. And for me, as we began talking about a legacy podcast studio, just downtown Kernersville is just
kind of fit the spot, right?
It's a great spot.
It is. So you didn't just stop though with your brick and mortar store.
Yeah, so I've got a mobile unit that I use too.
All right. When did you decide, like, hey, this is a necessity, this is the next step of? Was that all about growing the brand, or just tell me strategically what that was?
A little bit of both. More or less brand outreach, and then also too looking for a potential second location as like a drive-through. That was kind of the initial intention.
Okay.
You know, my thought was with this years ago when I'd planned this store, my thought was I was going to have a drive-through. I always wanted a drive-through. It was kind of my intention. It didn't pan out for a drive-through here, but as things would happen, you know, this trailer I've had just pre-COVID, just shy of pre-COVID. And so I'd been using it really after COVID. We started really gearing up with it and started using it. But yeah, just kind of one thing led to another. And my wife, actually, she's the one who found it. Funny enough, we were looking through different things on Facebook, and she's like, hey, I found this. And it was like, all right, cool. Next day we were off and running. You know, we went to Charlotte to go pick it up. You know, it was just kind of when things happen, you know, things happen for a reason. So it kind of worked. But I mean, mainly I mostly do events with it. You know, it sits idle in the summer, you know, more so than I'd like it to. But you know, I keep busy. When I've got staff at the store, I'm able to run it. So it's kind of that, you know, I got to go back and forth between, you know, paying staff and being the trailer, you know, versus, you know, not. So.
Right. Yeah. And that's what I was going to ask you. How do you split your time? Because do you do all the roasting yourself, or do you have staff now?
No, I do. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't quite trust. I don't trust any other hands on it, so not quite that way.
And that's something that has to be developed too over time.
Exactly.
And,
yeah.
So you're staffed up, but yet you still really like to interact with the people. It sounds.
I do.
like.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, this is like you wouldn't know it by talking to me probably, or by meeting me at the shop. And I'm very much an introvert. You know, so to me, like, you know, being at the shop is like that's my, you know, fills my cup of like talking to people, hanging out, and I enjoy it. It's fun to catch up with people and meet new people and learn about everyone's story, and the brief interchange that I have with them. It's very fun. But then in the roasting aspect too, I love, I could sit there with a roaster all day and just be, one-on-one with the roaster. It's fantastic.
It's almost like I want to compare your roasting to EQing.
Yeah, very much so. That's a great comparison. Yeah.
Yeah.
You just dial it right on in. That's exactly it.
That 430 in right there, or that 820,
Yep.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That's kind of the visual that I got in my mind.
That's spot on. Because I'm doing the same thing with, when you really go to let's say dial on a roast, let's say, you're working with, you got flame control, you've got airflow, you've got time in the roaster, you have what's called rate of rise. And so those are some variables that as it goes on, it's kind of like recording. It's very, not in the digital world, but in the analog world, it's a very destructive process. You got that one shot, and if you mess up, you're kind of trying to figure that out, or if you mess up, you've got a bad batch. You can't just fix it.
Yeah, so there's a scientific side to
very
this.
much, and an art form, both.
Yeah, but that, you see, you just said the word, because I was like, but there's an artsy side to it.
And that's what makes us all unique, because there's quite a few roasters, but we all roast slightly differently. There's certain, you can't fight science. Certain things happen to the beans at certain temperatures and things like that. You can't change. But what we do is we affect how we get to that point, and so we either do it fast, slow, all different variables. Yeah.
Can you give us any some idea of how many roasters? I mean, what numbers are we talking of people that you know of in community that roast?
Offhand, I could tell you probably 5. It's just not big. I mean, you guys have a neighbor, Josh. It's average. He's one. There's 4, I think, in Greensboro. Actually, 3, I think, in Greensboro. I'm sure about the 4th one, but there's 3 in Greensboro. There's 2 in Winston. So there's actually one coming in Walkertown. So it's, it's small. What I mean? Yeah. And so we all kind of, you all know who each other are. I deal with actually one of the guys in Greensboro. I've known him for the better part of 12 years now. And if I ever need something, it's like, oh, sure, here you go. It's like, because we're technically competition, but we're not. It's. Right. He didn't mind if I need supplies or need something at a pinch. Here you go. It's fine.
Well, I'm sure there's a lot of room too in the market, because so many people are drinking coffee, but also a lot of people, their mindset's changing away from maybe some major brand, national brand, and want to do local.
Correct.
And a lot of things with restaurants and
indeed,
foods and
well,
things.
that's been
coffee
it's been an explosion in the industry.
Yes.
Yeah, there's been a lot more nowadays. The accessibility of roasting in store and being more of a micro roaster has been huge. In the past, since I've started, in the past really 5 to 10 years, it's been explosive. I mean, just been exponential.
How do you know how as from a business model, and whether it's a time of year, how do you know how much to roast and what the needs are going to be of your shop?
History, honestly, and it's the easiest thing to say. On a business side of it, you look at what the years previous, are, and kind of gauge that what it's going to be. So I've done this for so long, I could tell you roughly when the busy times are. It's like summers are a slower time, winters are busy. It's seasonal. If you think of any coffee business is going to be relatively seasonal, so to speak. And so I know what to plan ahead for. And you got to think ahead. But I know what months are coming. And I break down things in quarters a year. So it's like fourth quarter we're gonna do this. Third quarter it's gonna be this. So it's kind of easier to think, easier to gauge that way if you break it down kind of in the smaller categories.
Gotcha. So. Yeah, so from another business aspect, how do you gauge as far as profit margin in there?
I mean, how do I say that? So you plan for it, and you adjust your cost. Honestly, post COVID things have changed a lot, as far as cost and stuff. But I'm looking for you got to make a certain profit a month. I mean, you keep labor at a certain cost, that kind of thing. So it's a lot of budgeting, a lot of planning. I budget out for 2 years out, 5 years out, so I know what my numbers should be. Every single year. Oh, just a lot of thinking ahead. I could tell you in 5 years what it should be versus what it is, or I could tell you next year here's where I should be, and I've got plans. I've got, plan A is what it could be at its worst, plan B is what it should be, and plan C would be great if it's higher, so it's like different, you put out different scenarios, and I track it, every single month. I'm always looking at numbers and paying attention to things.
I think it's important for entrepreneurs to be able to have that skill set, because that whether you survive or not has everything to do with the numbers.
Mm-hmm. If you don't pay attention to things, and you could possibly fail in that sense. So
and the other thing too with coffee, it seems like that is just, and you've been in it long enough, you've seen the evolution, things that are changing. And a lot of things are calling coffee today's really not coffee, but it's part of, I guess, the show.
Yeah, that's
of
exactly
coffee.
it. Yeah, it's become a lot more. Me personally, like I drink black coffee, and that's all I drink whatever the day. I don't deviate.
Right.
I'll make anything for anybody, but me personally, I probably won't drink it because I don't like sweet stuff.
Right.
But yeah, the industry has changed a lot over the years. It's definitely switched to focus from what we, back when I first started, it was pour overs and single origins and that kind of thing. There's been a lot of, it's still popular, but now we shifted to cold brew. We shifted to different, now we're doing cold foam and kind of like you mentioned, the presentation, it's all about, and so like, I'm not much for the presentation person as much as I should be, but I'm more on the quality aspect. It's like this, I'm paying attention to my roasting and I'm paying attention to this coffee, is this fresh out of the roaster? And then when I brew that shot of espresso, is it 20 seconds or is it 30 seconds? And so I'm looking at more of the science side of more the quality of it. Of like, here's if I'm going to give you something, it's something that I'm going to enjoy to drink myself. You know what I mean?
Do you have? Do you make the menu yourself, or do you have? Some.
I've got the part-time employees I've got. They usually deviate. They'll come up with some drinks, or I'll come up with some things, and I usually bounce it off of them. I'm like, hey, what do you think of this? I will try it. I was like, here, you try this, and you give me your opinion. And they've got the freedom to do whatever too. So like, you have something, hey, we'll throw it on the menu.
That's cool.
I think you have the best of both worlds, though, Kyle, because I think from your perspective, you're talking about just regular coffee. But you still have to deal with the other as well.
Yeah.
So if you're very good at the regular coffee,
I would say deal. I'd say, hey, people know what they like, and it's
Now I want to kind of go down. So the reason, like I said, the man, the myth, the legend, Kyle here is because I know that you're very involved in the community of Kernersville. And were you always that from the time that you got here? Did you just jump right in?
I would say I got more involved over the years, let's say. Really, honestly, I would say really around COVID times, at that point, it was really, I just kind of jumped more head in, head first in, so to speak. I'm involved with the chamber. As a lot of people are. I'm sure you guys are probably in the chamber, right?
Yes.
Yeah, they're phenomenal. Yeah,
they
Ashley's great,
amazing.
and all the other ones Chris is great. They're good people. And my thing is what I've done over the years in general is anything I could do with as far as like the private label stuff or anything like with the bags of coffee that I can push back to support whoever. It's kind of a craft, something I love, and if I can give that back to somebody and support them in a way that makes me happy. Like that's awesome. That's what I would love to do.
So with you saying that, so one of the reasons to stop by is you got that, Daniel? Okay. I love coffee.
I feel like I don't need to watch this.
Yes. I wanted to pick up this bag from you guys, and Garrett ground it up for me so I could use it at home. But I think this is an incredible thing because we had a conversation with them just recently.
I'll say who it is.
Yeah, with Fitz and David and April, and we talked about their business. We talked about their fire, and we talked a lot about community and support. And both of them were in tears with us, sharing the support they were getting. And so this was mentioned as well. Yeah. And this caught my attention on social media, and I thought it was a great idea.
So for our listeners, describe kind of what you've got here.
You tell me.
So the Fitz blend there. So what that is, it's a blend kind of, I'd say similar to like my downtown blend. It's a little different, little variation on it. So it's a little more of a medium roast, medium to light roast kind of. I try to go too dark. That usually a medium kind of pleases most palates. So what that is, that's a blend I do for them, and it just kind of post the fire, as you mentioned. The wife and I were thinking, what's a way we could do? How can we give back, and what can we do to help them? Any way we could do it, because we love Fitz. We don't, we haven't been there in a little while, but previous to the fire, we'll go there occasionally eat. It's good food, and we love Dave and April. They're great people.
They are great people.
And so what we decided was, to give these, any of the proceeds from this, we're essentially, we'll give that right back to them.
So I think that's a great thing. Thank you for doing that too.
Oh, of course.
So this is a full bag of coffee with Fitz on Main logo on it, and so people purchase that. And you've done this not just for Fitz on Main. This is something that you have done for
different businesses in the past. Yeah.
Yes.
Different organizations, kind of like on fundraisers, things like that. done some school fundraisers, different things,
I know just
right
about
out of that.
everything that I go to, if it has to do with the chamber, you've sponsored or given or donated in some way,
Yeah.
which, speaks to
And that's important,
to your
isn't it,
character.
Kyle,
Yeah.
in a local community like ours, to be able to do that type of thing as a business owner, to be not so self-centered about things,
Yeah,
but you're
correct.
looking at the community, you're looking at needs, and
Well,
you're
especially
trying to do what you
downtown.
can.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, well, being downtown Kernersville, we're such a small, tight-knit community,
Yeah.
and y'all know after being here
Yes.
for a little while. But everyone knows everyone, and if we don't help each other, we'll go our way. You know what I mean?
And
sure
small businesses really is what makes
it's what makes
our community.
Yes, it does. Mm-hmm.
And so everybody caring for each other and showing that and supporting and helping. I mean, our hearts dropped when we saw Fitz, the fire.
indeed.
I mean, and then stopped by there and talked to them. That was just like heartbreaking. But I was so worried as a business owner, knowing what the challenges they're facing.
Yeah.
Are they going to be able to overcome this and fight through it? So I was so glad to hear that they're going to fight through it.
Somebody told me
Yeah.
the other day if anybody could do it, it was David.
Yeah,
Fitz.
and just watching and talking to them is
Oh,
like,
yeah.
oh yeah,
It was
this is
great.
great.
So are you in the sweet spot, or your 5-year plan has more to come?
So we're I guess I'm in I say state of flux. I'm always looking for things to change and things to kind of kind of deviate and looking ahead in the future. So I can't say exactly what I have on the horizon, but hopefully something soon. Let's say that.
Ah.
So yeah, I hope so. I can't divulge
don't.
what it's gonna be, but I'm hoping things
So- yeah,
plan out.
so-
It'll work great.
So let's backstep just a little bit, because COVID was such a big thing for small businesses. How did you navigate that?
A lot of online stuff, honestly. No interaction. Yeah, that was a crazy
It was
time.
a difficult
So
time.
it-
For how
very
long
much
did
so.
you have to
So
do that?
I
here?
was essentially I was semi-shut down pretty much. If someone wanted a bag of coffee, I would kind of hand off bag of coffee and at a distance in a sense, And so we
Right.
did that for about 7 months for a while, until they kind of started lifting restrictions a little bit. It was definitely a weird time, but a lot of it was marketing online, more promotional stuff, email stuff, and I will say that the only positive thing out of COVID is one community, well I guess two, but one community being, and also two, on our end, online stuff is skyrocketed. So I do online sales, that kind of thing, which wasn't a thing prior to COVID.
right.
So how did you handle the influx of that as far as infrastructure wise?
I had to shift and deviate, honestly. It wasn't, my change was, I laid a little more things on staff and was like, hey, you're going to handle this. And I essentially stepped back some from the counter. At least once things opened back up, I'd step back from the counter to do more packaging and things like that. And I've had a website the whole time. So I just directed everyone to that. And I kind of, online stuff was handled that way. So just a little shift and went in.
Yeah,
So
it was a
every
weird
bag
time.
of coffee, do you fulfill every one of those
By
orders?
hand. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. So.
Wow.
And
Lot of
ship it?
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of love and care. So when there's a small shop, it's literally the meaning of small shop. I roast
What?
and bag everything. So
What's the farthest?
I've gotten to California actually.
You have?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's been cool.
Congratulations
I've got
on
an order.
that.
Yeah, it's a random order, but it'll occasionally go that way. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
As far as your marketing, tell me a little bit about what's worked for your particular business.
For me, specifically, honestly, like guerrilla marketing or your word of mouth.
Okay.
There's nothing better than that. And I've got such a loyal fan base. I've got a huge fan base from Greensboro when I was there for all those years, and so they're still very loyal. They come buy coffee from me, and they have spread to other people. And the Kernersville community is also kind of built up as well, and it's just people telling people. I've done Facebook, Instagram. I don't do it like I should. I keep getting out of my wife. So you need to post more. And so that's not my forte.
I'm trying.
it's-
Here.
Which one of those have you had the most
better success with
Instagram?
Instagram.
Facebook or Instagram?
Yeah, probably. I've had more interactions with that, and I try to link them so it's both involved. But TikTok's a big one. I'm trying to get back. Start. I've posted a few on there, but I need to get back to posting on that regularly. But
Yeah, it's the same for us. We're navigating that with all of our businesses as well, and we're new. We have I mean, the photography business has been around for a while, but I know with the podcast, it's new,
Well,
new footprint.
I found you guys on Facebook. Fun enough, because Mike shared it. It's like, so I'd seen the post and the video, and I was like, oh, cool. That was neat.
So we're trying to navigate those waters now.
As I'm sure a lot of our listeners and viewers are as well. I mean, it's one thing to have a passion to do the business that you're doing, but when you have all the other things, whether it's the bookkeeping or the marketing or all those things, that's not the things that you started the business with a passion to do.
No. Oh, no.
And so that comes, that comes with time, and that is why it's called a job sometimes.
Yep, you wear many, many hats.
The job side, but also too, but the personality is so important. That's what we're finding in these stories that we have here, how strong a thing that is. And I noticed there's all kinds of coffee names with businesses. It's crazy. I look at those all the time, and some of them are very humorous and they're wide ranging. And you chose to use your name with your coffee shop and your face.
And your likeness.
Your likeness.
The story behind that is a little bit of a story. So I've always been known for coffee. Like so when I was in Greensboro, I called the store Beansboro, hence the play on words, and it was cute and it attracted people. But when I moved here, I started as the traveling bean, with kind of as a foresight to eventually do a trailer was my intention. Ironically, it happened, just not in the way I had thought about it. And so during COVID, funny enough, I was twiddling my thumbs for months thinking, now's a good time, so everyone knows me for coffee. So everyone's all, even like in Greensboro, even when I was traveling, so, I'm going to go to Kyle's to get coffee. I want to go see Kyle. And it was like, whenever you go to the store, we're going to go see Kyle. So it was like, well, why not be me? So I figured that was a good time to do it to rebrand. So it's worked out pretty well.
I think it's a great idea. It brings it back to personalities. And again, one aspect of your business, again, is dealing with people, that interaction. And that's why I love coffee so much, because it kind of helps with
breaks that social barrier. And it
does.
brings people together.
Some of my fondest memories are sitting on the porch drinking coffee, like with my dad or with my mom or with a brother or something like that. We share that in common, and or just with anybody. Yeah. I wish more people around us drink coffee. But
what are you saying, Lamar?
I'm not saying anything. I love coffee.
Go ahead. It's okay. I don't drink coffee.
Oh, okay. That's funny. I'm married to someone who doesn't drink coffee. Funny enough.
Oh, my word.
Yeah.
And it is just something, I don't have anything fundamentally against it.
Yeah.
I just
don't like it.
Well, I do know this. You're in a minority.
Yeah.
Big minority.
But hey.
That's all right.
I like my unique little self.
Yes,
I'll drink a cup of hot tea.
There you go. Yeah.
But that's as far as I go. Now, when I used to do a lot of singing and recording, the only time, but I looked at it more as medicine. I would just do black hot coffee to warm.
Get you more of your vocal cords up. Yep.
Yeah, and then the caffeine kind of stripped some of the things away from it. I'm not going to say out of your voice, so that you were able to go in and.
Well, I can't start my day without it. I have to sit down and just leave me alone, and I need my first cup, and then throughout the day I need several more cups. But I love it.
He'll go broke.
Very good. So we talked about COVID. We talked about you've got some future plans you're not going to let us in on.
But it's cool, to our listeners that we want to know that, especially in small business, that we're always looking forward. That we're not happy with just
you can't be stationary. Yeah, you can't. If you get stagnant, you'll disappear and you'll die. You got to always have a plan to move forward.
And everything that's happened in the past, COVID included, all of that really prepares you truly as an entrepreneur to look forward. You need to draw from all of those lessons and strengths.
You diversified.
Yeah.
Pivot quite a bit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's all about entrepreneurship. Is a lot of pivoting.
Learning
as you go. Going, oh wait, this doesn't work. Let's try this.
Is your family involved in the day-to-day?
No, not really. No, my wife she's an accountant. So funny enough, she's what I call my bean counter, So she handles the bookkeeping, all that kind of stuff. So That's her involvement. She's been in the shop maybe I think twice, and that's been like the most stressful times in her life. She's like,
wow.
I don't know what I'm doing. Like when we first opened, she had to be there like for a couple days I had to do something, and it was run to Greensboro or something. And then so she's like, well, I'll be there for a couple hours, and she's like, never again. I won't do this.
Well, that brings me to another question. How do you take time off?
Well, thankfully I've got Garrett and then a couple, like some part-time people that make life available to kind of sneak away, and so they're awesome. You can't do it without employees, I mean, so what we I say you say time off, I say time away. Honestly, hard to say time off when you're a business owner, as you guys know. It's like you're never really off, quote unquote. Your brain never shuts off. You're always thinking about it. So I'm lucky to have Garrett, and some others, but. Yeah, I would say, I don't know, my time to relax is, honestly, it's like in the morning, so I come in, like, so my zen is like, I'll come in the morning before we open, I'll just sit there and drink a cup of coffee, like the lights off, just like sit there and just sip coffee or drink some espresso and just be like, all right, cool, let's start the day, So,
That's awesome. I get what you're putting down, Lamar. I really do, but it's
I'm not insinuating anything.
I'm old enough now. It's just, I think it is what it is.
It is what it is. It sure is.
Well, I just want to say thank you for your contribution to Kernersville as a whole, and for teaching us a lot, I think, today about, number one, your craft, and two, I think that there's a ton of nuggets in here for our listeners and viewers for small business strategies that you've had. I mean, that's really what we're trying to do is teach people, hey, this was a pitfall, or this was a success. I learned this along the way to try to help everybody, not just in Kernersville, but everybody who finds this to be somewhat successful. So the next coffee roaster out there may need to just get in, maybe you become the coffee master of like
the next person trying.
Put a hat on, a white coat, do a Netflix show. I don't know, like the roasters. And I think I'm spawning ideas over here.
Could be, I see those,
I really feel like that.
Yes, you are. Very good at that, for sure.
Well, anyway, so I want to thank you for coming on. And where can people find you?
We're next to, the easiest place to do is we're next to First Citizens Bank there. So we're the brick buildings there that face Main Street there. We're next to like First Citizens and next to like Harmon Park there.
What's your address?
It's 126 South Main Street and it's Suite A.
And how do we find you on social media?
So it's Kville Coffee on Instagram, and then if on Facebook, it's Kyle's Coffee. You can look it up there. Yeah.
And then your website?
It's kylescoffee.net.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and that's where actually you can go through there. You can actually buy a bag of that through the website too. So
cool.
Yeah.
And we want to encourage everybody to order, go buy. If you see the mobile truck out, it doesn't matter. Just go and support this business. Kyle's Coffee is not, you're not just supporting Kyle's Coffee because Kyle's supporting other people in the community. So really it is a full circle kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think everybody, we need to be thinking in those terms: local business, the personalities, the stories, all of that, to support local.
Yes. So thank you again.
Yeah.
And I would like to encourage everyone to like, follow, subscribe, listen to Legacy Podcast Studios. You will have all of that information come up on the screen right here, wherever you can find us. And you know what? We would love to know what you want to know about, what kind of businesses or questions that you might have that we can answer for you. So interact with us on our social media and we'll bring you some more of that content.
Yeah, exactly.
So
it's been a great day, great show.
It has. We'll see you next time.